Really nice to be here. I have actually been at a number of DevRel Con events in the past, both as an attendee and as a speaker, and I have learned so much from the community. Again, this is one of those traits which I call as a practice. We are always trying to learn, and as a lot of other professions where you are practitioners, it's also important to be open and sharing with others and learning others' tactics and ourselves moving in that direction. I'm going to break my talk into two broad parts. One of them really talks about why is Qualcomm here. You might have not seen a lot of people from Qualcomm at places like DevRelCon or working with third-party developers, because historically, being a technology company, we had a certain market segment that we were working with, but that's expanding. So part of the talk is going to be why Qualcomm cares about third-party developers. Important for us to share that with you, because as we are building our DevRel team, we are hiring. The engineering teams are hiring. So if that piques anyone's interest, come and talk to me. We also have Paul Torres here, who's my colleague from San Diego. So come and talk to one of us, and then hopefully that can also lead to some of the opportunities within Qualcomm that can work out, right? And then the second talk is very specifically and tactically, as we are building this new function within Qualcomm of DevRel. How are we using GenAI in that journey? Like prac- practice what you preach, taking that principle of dog fooding to heart. And it's been very useful for us in the current environment with tight budget situations, staffing being how can you really get more out of what is offered to you from a DevRel perspective. So this something that you all probably have seen once or more in the last 18 to 24 months. Still remember, I think it was 2023, right at the beginning of the year, chat gpt screenshots started getting viral on Twitter, and then that was the inflection point when suddenly the technology that actually my previous employer Google had worked on, transformers, was starting to get productized. And that kind of started this, what I'm calling as the fourth industrial revolution, which is driving this AI change going forward. And we all had read about AI algorithms and the concepts and the theories in the last couple of decades in textbooks. What is really different and what is driving this change is now compute is available to really take some of those ideas and make them practical. And also with the advent of big data. So you take all of those algorithms and concepts and theories, marry it with compute power that's available right now, and thanks to big data, suddenly all of these solutions start to emerge. And I think it's only getting started. uh, it it's really gonna transform the way we live our lives. It's really gonna transform the way humans have lived on this planet, and I think we're gonna see those massive changes going forward. But as we have seen in the last couple of technology waves, especially mobile, that I was able to see uh, uh, up and close with Android, the large companies provide the platforms. The actual use cases come from developers. How is this technology going to be implemented in a suburb in New York City? How is this technology going to be implemented uh, by cities and towns in say Africa and parts of Indonesia and India? So that's why this phrase of developers build a future is critical. And of course, as we heard in the morning, what it takes to be a developer is also changing rapidly. You can start programming and building solutions using natural language. You don't have to be an expert in programming languages, which really opens up the field for a lot more. So GenAI, of course, is being really critical there. But from a Qualcomm perspective, and this is where it starts to get interesting for us, and we get involved, is on-device AI. So of course, like, cloud is powerful and you can run a lot of these workloads and do training and also run inferencing using cloud. But then as AI gets ubiquitous and these solutions get deployed around us, from things like robotics to Internet of Things, privacy, having more control to the data itself, making sure that the latencies stay low. Uh, all of those factors become important. Sustainability, how much power is being consumed for running these workloads. And that's why on device is something that starts to get really important. And that's an area where Qualcomm, over the last 3 to 4 decades of constant investment in hardware, becomes interesting for us. And that's one of the reasons we are moving forward in this journey. So those of you who have not heard of Qualcomm, again, we are celebrating our 40-year anniversary this year. A company that really has pioneered a lot of innovation when it comes to communication. In fact, Qualcomm stands for quality communication. That's what the name stands for. But in the last few years, we have been moving in the direction of taking that communication power and bring it to compute as well. How do you bring communication and compute power together? That has resulted in us powering the whole Android smartphone ecosystem. Like this advent of Gen AI and some of the challenges that are coming up, which are very visible, the cost of inferencing, what we talked about, privacy and latency on device is important. And that's where Qualcomm is moving forward, and we are making some of our offerings available for third party developers. So as you are thinking of deploying AI solutions around us, how can you use Qualcomm's technology in that journey? This is a visual representation of where we think eventually things will stabilize. So, of course, a lot of training starts on the cloud, ease of deployment helps you get started quickly. But then, as scaling becomes important, as a wide scale deployment becomes important, that's where you start to move in this direction. And there are again trade-offs that are important here, which is you need faster inferencing. You need responses much quickly. Performance and efficiency becomes important. Immediacy, like things that need to live within a certain geographical location. Of course, personalization. If you want to have AI give very personalized responses to a user may not want all the data to flow back to cloud all the time. They may want it to stay on that device. I personally think eventually things will stabilize in some sort of a hybrid setup where vast majority of use cases are being served on device, and periodically you keep going back to cloud to pull any major updates that are needed. Also, the way AI is moving forward, and all the agentic stuff that we are seeing, it's really being seen as a new UI. Suddenly, text is the way through which you interact with computers. Voice is the way through which you interact with computers. Photos is the way through which you interact with computers, right? Whole app ecosystem that we have known for several years going to get transformed in a massive way. And that's again an opportunity for new startups, new players to come in and get involved, right? Like, don't worry about, okay, if someone already built an app and they are super successful, and I'm trying to serve the same users, I can't get into that market anymore. This AI actually is some sort of a leveler where the UIs are more foundational. And of course, all the backend data is standardized, and through things like agentic workflow, you can create new use cases. So all of this is important for Qualcomm. And from our journey perspective, what we are working on is offering tools to third party developers where you can build these edge AI on device use cases across industries. So going from automotive to industrial IoT, to even compute, the laptop business that Qualcomm entered last year, to smartphones. How can we enable third-party developers to start building these AI applications, really aiming for on-device to start with, but then eventually also getting to the cloud stage and hybrid. And one of the solutions as part of it is a product called Qualcomm AI Hub, which is a result of a startup that Qualcomm acquired last year called Tetra. So Qualcomm brought in Tetra, worked with the team, and launched this new offering called Qualcomm AI Hub, which is literally a very easy way for you to get started if you are trying to build on-device applications. If you go to Qualcomm AI Hub, there are hundreds of pre-optimized models that run great on Qualcomm's Snapdragon platform. So you literally pick one of those models, tweak it, test it on our hardware, and deploy it and get started. You can also bring your own model, which is a different path that is supported, and again, like, go through that integration journey and start building solutions over there. In in just over a year, when since we launched AI Hub, I think we launched it in February of last year, over 1,500 companies are already using Qualcomm's AI Hub, and this number is literally growing as we speak. And across ecosystem, as I said, right, from auto to compute, to mobile, to robotics. And then we are also working with large hyperscalers, model makers, to really give a wide range of choices for third party developers. So while this is a new area for us within Qualcomm, we are optimistic about the progress while also being aware that there's a long way for us to go. We've also been building the ecosystem. So in addition to AI Hub, Qualcomm also acquired Edge Impulse, and bring in a lot of their capabilities to really complete this picture when it comes to the ecosystem, and where things can go, where you can bring any of your data, use the foundational models, either from Qualcomm's own AI research that's coming in or through Edge Impulse. Then you can tweak the models, update them, go through either your own set of hardware, or pick up some of the dev kits that Qualcomm is launching under our Dragon Wing brand, and then deploy it, and then that whole iterative process goes on. So the point here being is, this is a new area for Qualcomm. You probably would have known Qualcomm over the years as a chip maker for smartphones, but this is a new area which is critical for our journey going forward, and that's where we are creating function from a developer product management perspective, but also DevRel. So a lot of DevRel people that you will see out there from Qualcomm are really trying to serve third party developers who are building edge AI applications. And as I said, like, we're also hiring. We're not hiring like a ton, but we're also hiring. So if it really piques anyone's interest, if this is an area that excites you, come and talk to us, right? So while we have been observing this, and when I moved from Google to Qualcomm last year and literally trying to build a new DevRel function, it's also very obvious that the way we have done DevRel over the years will also get transformed in a massive way. Like, if all of these tools exist, that makes content creation, the way you analyze data, easy, and we are talking about other industries and other professions being transformed. Why not DevRel? It's just a matter of time. And one way of looking at it is just get scared out of it. Okay, like, I've done this job like this all my life, and suddenly this AI is going to come and take over my job. The other way of thinking about this is, I've always had less time than what I could have done. So how can I use some of these tools to bring more efficiency into my day-to-day work and reinvest that time in relationships? Because at the end of the day, having that authentic conversation, ha- uh, being able to create and build relationship with your partners, with your developer community, is critical. And I think that's the opportunity this presents. So this is a typical funnel. People call it and name it in different ways. But from a DevRel journey perspective, you want your developers somehow go through this path, where first you want them to know that you exist. That's the connect phase, right? Then once they know you exist, you want them to start engaging with your content, with your resources, with your community. That's also the stage where you introduce them to a lot of your educational material, with the hope that a subset of them end up going out there and adopting your product, launching it in production. That's where hopefully some of the revenue cycles for the business starts. That's where the business flywheel that you talk from a developer perspective starts to get triggered. And also, eventually, you want a subset of them to be a strong advocate. The most successful developer teams that I've seen are the ones where people talking about their product out there are not just the people who are paid to do that, like the DevRel people, but folks from the community. So if you have a very vocal and supportive ecosystem of developers out there who are using your platform, and they are strong advocates out there, and you are able to share their stories and testimonials, that really goes a long way. And then we have been using Gen AI actually across this life cycle, going all the way from connecting with third party developers to engaging with them through content and other ways, helping them adopt, supporting them in that adoption journey, and then eventually advocating and helping them move in that direction. So we'll start by covering some examples for that. The first one is, how are we using Gen AI in support function, which directly contributes to adoption and conversion. So at Qualcomm, we have this large global commercial operations team that has existed, and their responsibility is to support developers, customers, partners when they get stuck with something. And there is a email alias that gets shared. If you are a developer above a certain threshold from a size and a support perspective, you can just email this alias, and someone will get in touch with you and respond. Now, historically, a lot of this support came manually, but recently, what has happened is uh, all of these inquiries that come in get triaged. Uh, Completely through automation, and then we are also using generative AI to generate responses that get sent back to the team. There is also like language translation that happens as part of it. Responses are personalized. How has this helped? This has helped in terms of the accuracy of the response that goes out, the time in which you are able to get back to the customer. So the customer or the developer is not waiting for several days or even weeks, which also impacts the funnel of conversion. If they reach out and don't hear for a week, they probably find something else. But if you are proactive and able to get back to them sooner, it just changes the whole dynamics. The other areas where we have really used Gen AI is, I'll start with the first one, where when I started at Qualcomm, a lot of our documentation, and this is not even Gen AI, was behind login screens, because a lot of documentation was meant for large partners, and we didn't want it to just go out and be out there in public. So we worked on, okay, like what documentation can be put in front of a login screen, where if you've come to developer.qualcomm.com, we don't want you to see a login screen as the first thing. What is publicly available documentation that exists? That resulted in almost 50,000 pieces of external documentation suddenly being available. Now, one way of letting developers navigate that is through, okay, like you go from document, you're trying to find what you need, and then hopefully you are successful and you move forward. The other way for that is, can that be changed into a search box where a developer tells you what they're looking for? And it's not just a search, like then a chat bot can respond by going through all of those pieces of documentation and giving you exactly the response, and then doing a two-way conversation on top of it. So we built an internal version of it. We tried it, iterated on it. There were a ton of issues to deal with, from just the accuracy to people asking all kinds of things. Like they may ask things that are not meant for developer support, but trying to get information that exists somewhere in your company, right? Like, so all of that privacy and security risks you have to take care of. But then eventually we got to a point where we were able to put this out in beta. So right now, 30,000 external customers and all of internal Qualcomm users are able to use this interface to really get going faster. Now, how does this help from a DevRel perspective? Reimagine your documentation website. Can that go from static pages to a smart chat interface where a developer comes and asks exactly what they're looking for, and you are able to give them that response quickly? Extend it to the next stage. Can the content be in that shape as well, where a developer comes and says, show me a 5-minute video of what your API does? And if you can include use cases around it, and the video gets generated on the fly, and then the developer as the next question can ask, okay, like this is interesting, can you share a longer tutorial on this, maybe 2 hours? And then you are able to serve that, and through personalization you are able to capture the journey. So if the developer is only able to go for an hour and come back later, you are able to do that. So that's one area where I think a lot of this work could be extended. Of course, using GenAI as an assistant in authoring documentation. Of course, you don't push it out as is. You take the inputs, you review it, and then roll it out. But that's another area where we have been using GenAI. The third piece is generating content. And before I play some of these videos, I just want to call out, right? This is not a replacement. Think of some of these things as augmentation. We have always talked about, okay, like a lot of our developers are in countries where English is not the primary language. A lot of our I don't have enough developer advocates, their hours for them to go and record these videos and do the code samples and go at events, right? So don't the point here being, don't immediately go and replace all of your humanly generated content with AI content. But the point is, like, some of this is actually getting good quality and can help serve those needs that you have for your third party developers at a much lower cost.
In this video, we are going to download and install Microsoft Visual Studio, a powerful yet adaptable IDE for your next application.
First, go to the Microsoft Visual Studio Downloads webpage, visualstudio.microsoft.com/downloads. Select the Enterprise version. Free trial. The download will begin automatically. Open the setup execution file to see the download in progress.
One myth that you see in the movement and the
A
sound
number of components.
is because of the setup. You watch the real
From the
video, there's no
Workload tab,
mismatch.
select the following three options. .NET Desktop Development, Desktop Development with C++, and Windows Application Development.
In the Individual Components tab, add the following components by typing the following into the search bar. C++, Universal Windows Platform. Version 143, ARM64. Also search for MSVC version 143, VS 2022, C++, ARM Build Tools, latest. Click Install.
Please note, due to the large file size, the installation will take a while. Once the installation is complete, you will be able to access Visual Studio and all of the required components.
So these are just 4 AI avatars out of dozens that the team has been experimenting with. And again, like, we are careful how we are putting it out there. So if you will go to our YouTube channel, you will still see a lot of, like, I think majority or almost all of them is humanly generated content. But this is an area which is of constant interest. And I think this is one of the places where DevRel is going to get transformed as we go along. This is another example of a real person. He recorded this talk in English, but then using lip sync, we were able to translate it into Turkish. So again, like, that use case of my developers are in different geographies and they need content in their own language. I think that gets served in a much cost effective way.
Important step in the Qualcomm AI certification program journey. We hope you enjoyed immersing yourself in the world of Qualcomm AI and adding new skills to your portfolio. Qualcomm AI sertifikasyon programı yolculuğunda önemli bir adımı tamamladığınız için tebrikler. Umarız Qualcomm AI dünyasına dalmaktan keyif almış ve portföyünüze yeni beceriler eklemişsinizdir.
So even the lip movement had changed with the language. And this finally is again like a combination of AI avatars offering instant translations in 100+ languages, right? So I'll just play this one. This is the last video.
And software stack for rapid prototyping and proof of concept evaluation. يمكن أيضا استخدام هذه المجموعة لنشر حزمة البرامج المتكاملة الخاصة بك من البداية إلى النهاية من أجل النماذج الأولية السريعة وتقييم إثبات المفهوم. Este kit también se puede utilizar para implementar su propia pila de software de extremo a extremo para prototipado rápido e evaluação de prueba de concepto. Este kit também pode ser utilizado para implementar a sua própria pilha de software de ponta a ponta para prototipagem rápida e avaliação de prova de conceito.
The point being for some of this is we always go to our leadership, and I'm in the process of doing that, asking OPEX and budget for next year. we have a number of line items, and in the current environment, everything is being looked at with a lot of scrutiny. So if there are certain areas where you can take money from and invest in, where you really like, okay, like for us, doing in-person workshops is critical, but because that really helps people get over the hump, or for us being able to be out there more, and spending time with developers is important. We all have to do trade-off, because flat budget is the new good news. Like if I hear flat budget in any of my conversations with people across the company, get a sense, okay, this is the best case scenario. But you can't operate with flat budget if you're trying to grow the reach of your community and you're trying to do more with developers. So these are some use cases how we are using Gen AI. Again, it's not an exhaustive list, but I think, and I'll be very curious over the next couple of days, hear from some of you as well. How are you using AI in DevRel itself, right? And moving forward. Couple of other areas: analyzing and supporting support forums, automating responses over there. This again, like I think, has been done in the past as well at scale. And then finally, capturing the pulse of developer community. And we haven't finished this journey yet, but one of the things I've always found powerful is, if Monday morning you can serve a dashboard to your exec leadership that really gives a high level pulse of what your developer community is. What are the 5 pain points? What are the open standing issues? And where the community is doing well. Now, in order to do that regularly at scale for millions of developers, you can't do it humanly. And therefore the power of AI is great, because then some of those issues can be translated into feature requests and be served back to the product teams and help iterate quickly, like helping improve that satisfaction score for your community. So that's all from my side. As I said, like from a Qualcomm perspective, it's a new journey that we are getting into. You might have not heard about Qualcomm and open source in the same sentence 3-4 years ago, but here we are. Also very committed about working on open source standards, making sure that our APIs are robust, our documentation is high quality and accessible, our SDKs are really best in class and something that you all can trust, and also starting this new developer go-to-market motion. And still early days, so we want to be upfront about that, but this is a critical area where we will continue to invest and move forward. That's all from my side. I think I'm not sure how we are doing on time, but we're going to be around and happy to talk to some of you if you have questions on this or anything else. That's all. Thank you.